Good morning and welcome to the David and David on Real Estate podcast. We are today on episode number 185, getting up there in those episodes. We have a very special guest. We have Ken Weiler from Ken Weiler Coaching joining us today. Ken, welcome to the David and David on Real Estate podcast. Good to have you on.
Thank you, Davids. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you on, Ken. And I like anybody that's got like a secret agent code after his name, like 007, but you're Ken Agent 2.0, which I think is pretty cool. So are you a secret agent or are you does that come out of a real estate agent?
No, I'm not a secret agent. 2.0 is to indicate that we're going up, we're kicking it up to the next level. I'm done. I'm done with 101. It's now 2.0. But if you read the whole thing, it's AI meets EQ.
Yeah, so jump into that a little bit more. Tell us a little bit more about your background. Tell us about, how'd you get into coaching? Tell us more about Agent 2.0.
Okay. Uh, I'll start from the beginning. I started real estate in 1986, and I didn't know a single soul. I came from Winnipeg, and I came to Toronto, got my real estate license, and I went to work. Started with Canada Trust taught me, and Canada Trust was big on door knocking, expiries, and FSBOs. What did I know? That's what I did. For 9 months straight, didn't make a single dime. My 10th month, I did 13 deals, and it took off from there. Yeah. For 8 years, I was a regular conventional agent, conventional in the sense that I was a listing agent, and I had a farm area within that farm area. I did FSBOs, expiries, and door knocking. Basically, that's all I did for 8 years. And then I decided that I was going to become a buyer agent. This was 1993, before buyer agency was even adopted in Ontario. And I found that it was like easy pickings because nobody else was doing it. And I developed my own buyer agency agreement, and I developed a team of 12 agents where I would go and I would sign my buyers up under BRA, my own BRA, and hand that BRA off to the buyer agents. I did that to 2000. In 2000, I shift gears again, and I did what I think my calling is in life, and that was coach. I stopped selling real estate. I didn't stop selling real estate, but I put it aside, always kept my license, always dabbled in it. But coaching has been my main thing for the past 25 years. And Agent 2.0, AI meets EQ, is the evolution of my coaching over the past 25 years.
Wow, Ken, I see this transition happening so much where, realtors kind of transition from selling into coaching. And it's kind of no different what I did, right? I was a realtor and then I transitioned and, wanted to help more people at the same time, transitioned to a brokerage owner. But talk to us a little bit about that transition. Why do you think agents transition from selling to, something else to helping more people at the same time?
Well, I'm going to get a little spiritual, metaphysical on you in answering that question. It was
Love
a
it.
calling of mine. I've visited many palm readers in my lifetime, and every one of them, to a person, has said, "You are a teacher, you are a communicator. You need to, whatever it is you do, you need to communicate what it is you know." And I've always felt that inside. And as much as I enjoyed my selling career, I'd have to say that coaching has been it's my calling. It's all I can say. It's where I feel at home.
You
So
enjoy
just
it on a higher level. They say that if you do what you love, then you haven't worked a day in your life. And I think that kind of encapsulates, exactly what you just spoke about.
100%. I do not feel like I'm going to work when I'm coaching in front of a group of agents and I'm sharing my knowledge. It's what I'm put on earth here to do. And it
so
just so happens to be that I coach a lot about, I have an academic background in psychology. So a lot of what I coach on brings in that element to it. It just so happens that I know real estate quite well, obviously. And so that's the arena in which I coach.
and are you just explain how your business model sort of works? Are you coaching because like to groups because brokerages are bringing you in to coach their agents, or is it agents reaching out to you directly privately, or you put groups together? Maybe explain how that model works.
Yeah, it's actually quite simple. I mean, the model has changed, evolved over the years, but where it is right now is simply I go into brokerages like David's and I say, here's what I've got. I'll do a presentation, just an introductory presentation, so you know who I am and where I'm coming from and the kind of things that I'm coaching. And I charge one fee to the brokerage, and whatever the brokerage wants, however many agents the brokerage wants to bring in, he's entitled to do that. So at this stage of the game, after 39 years of the business, it's no longer about creating an enormous income for me. What it's about, it's giving back to the community. It's giving back to the 39 years that I've spent in this business, what it's given me, and now it's my turn to give back.
Ken, you have a very unique approach to teaching people because you're one of the few coaches that actually segments or looks at different personality traits.
Yeah.
Not a lot of coaches. I mean, other coaches out there, look at disc profiling and they do, something on a bit of a smaller scale, but like you really tailored your coaching to different personality types. So talk us through why that is important and why agents should really, pay attention to this moving forward.
Okay, well, without wanting to geek out on psychology, there are three dimensions to the human mind. And the first dimension is the cognitive dimension, which is what we're aware of. And it's the largest dimension because we're so aware. Large is in the sense that we are aware or fully aware. It's what we know. It's what we know that we don't know. It's how it's the knowledge that we have to tap into resources to teach ourselves the things that we don't know. It's what separates us from the animal kingdom. But there's a second dimension of the mind that we typically know that as the affective mind, or what's known in the annals of psychology as the personality. And there are many personality assessments out there. The assessment that I use is one that I've developed myself. I've taken the best of the best and developed this own personality. And I've divided it into four, what the public knows as colors. And the colors don't mean anything other than just depicting the four different personality types. But there is a third dimension, and that is, and not a lot of people, it's a bit obscure. It's called the conative mind. And the conative mind is the instinctive mind. I don't mean the kind of instinct that you may be thinking of. It's the kind of instinct that where your instinctive way of how you accomplish a task when given to you. And once I do that assessment, the assessment is called Kolbe. And I'm a trained facilitator in that modality. Once we have your Kolbe score, I can predict almost to a T exactly how you're going to go about accomplishing a task once you set up the task. And it's really quite confirming to the people once I give it back to them. Their comments, very common comment at that point in time is, well, doesn't everybody else do it this way? And the answer is no. No, you're unique. Generally, like my Kolbe score, about 4% of the population are like me. And I would imagine David and both Davids would be the same. But then we combine the personality assessment with the Kolbe assessment, and we wrap it around one more assessment that I do. It's quite popular actually. It's called MBTI, Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. It's been around for a long time, but it's evolved and it's very, very good. Whereas the personality and Kolbe is about how you operate internally, MBTI is how you take in information and interact with that information with the public at large. In this case, your clientele, your fellow agents, etc. Then what I do, David, is I plug those results into AI. And I say, okay, AI, and this is for each individual. So it's very customized. My approach is very, very customized. And we tell AI with each individual, okay, John Smith's goal is, 5-year goal is X, his 3-year goal is Y, and his 1-year goal is this. Given the personality assessment, given the Kolbe score, and given the MBTI score, develop a daily activity, weekly activity, and monthly activity that would be specific for John Smith and also commensurate with his 1, 3, and 5-year goals. And what comes out is a very personalized business plan for each individual.
And can is there an accountability factor as well? Because I mean, that's the biggest gap that we tend to see in the industry is, agents by and large know what they should be doing, but they're just not doing it. And I understand adjusting the business plan to their personality to match, their habits and sort of their routine and kind of make it more applicable to them on an individual basis. But there's always that accountability factor that also plays a crucial role.
You're absolutely right. And I think that, and you've been in the business long enough, David, and been around agents long enough to know that agents will go to seminars and learn what to do, and a very small percentage will actually carry it out. And the reason for that, what I have found, is because it's what I compare, it's power-based selling versus force-based selling. So if we're giving agents a one-size-fits-all activities to do, it's very difficult to be motivated around that because it's not consistent with their personality, with their instincts, with their Colby, and with their MBTI score. But if we can develop a system specifically for them, it becomes far less of a fight for them and far more natural for them to get up and do it. You don't have to twist my arm to get up in front of agents to coach them. I'll do that. I'll do that any day of the week, all day long, and I absolutely love it. To your earlier comment, I don't feel I'm working. So if we can get agents that kind of a daily routine, then motivation becomes less of a factor. Now, having said that, there are still things that we have to do that we don't want to do. So to answer your question specifically about accountability, absolutely. I take it's a spreadsheet, and it's 13 steps within that spreadsheet that I pick exactly what the activity has to do. And quite frankly, what I say to them is, if your scores are not commensurate with these activities, why don't you partner up with someone who has opposite scores to you, whose activities they would be commensurate with? And I find that building partnerships around that is extremely effective.
I got a couple questions, Ken, because I love this, but I think like what David was sort of saying too, like we've all made lots of attempts and come up with ways to lead the horse to the water, but you can't make them drink it, right? And that's sort of the problem, whether it's real estate agents or lawyers or my law clerks. We have the same problems in our office, and in trying to improve and having techniques, etc. So AI has been around for a while, and I'm sure you've evolved into this system, everything. But have you been able? Has it been around long enough that you're able to track, to figure out how it's working, like getting the results from the agents? Like 6 months later, a year later, after they've got this customized program, and then see the successes or the failures?
It's a good question. And the answer is no, simply because it hasn't been around that long, hasn't been around long enough, and I haven't been using it long enough. This is my newest, latest, and greatest.
Right.
I have had success with it, and I have had agents comment to me about and say to me, "Wow, this is like, why hasn't anybody given this to me before?" kind of thing, because it's very confirming to them. But yes, we're on the road to getting that data. It's still very, very new. So stay tuned.
Right. But in the meantime, when you present this to an agent, you're getting a bit of a wow factor from them. They're saying like, okay, this looks like something I could actually do, not something I'll be afraid of. Like, really, I got to do all these things, or
100%.
something, this fits me, so I think I could actually do this. Like, is it a positive reaction?
Very positive so far. Oh, in fact, only positive. Some of the comments are things like, "Wow, this is mind blowing. Oh my God, why didn't anybody give this to me before?" Those kind of comments. And now we're putting it into practice. But then, we're still dealing with human nature. There's still going to be a certain percentage of agents, even though it's perfectly commensurate with who they are. They're not they would rather go and do whatever. Um,
The
and
path of least resistance.
the path of least resistance.
Ken, how much does the business plan differ between agents and between different personality types? Like when you're in
Dramatic,
a group, sorry,
dramatic,
it does, eh?
dramatic.
Can you give us a few specific examples, maybe?
Well, I mean, it's quite detailed. So whereas one agent may be, let me go to that 13-step
Sure,
process,
please.
specifically with respect to what I call the lowest hanging fruit in the industry right now. David, I think you and I had this conversation when I was in your office a month or two ago.
Yes, I
Uh,
remember.
The lowest hanging fruit right now, beyond a shadow of a doubt, as far as I'm concerned, is move up buyers. Um, then the question becomes, and the reason for that is because the delta between the higher priced home and their home, the smaller priced home, has never been so narrow. And it's an ideal time to to make that move. And the question becomes is where do you find them?
Yep.
Uh,
And the market continues to decline,
you're
right? Like
right.
every day it's grinding downwards. So I mean, if you can lock in a price today for your home and know exactly where you stand, you can take as much time as you need to, look at those opportunities and really get into something that probably before was never possible. And the higher, the price point, the more opportunity there is. Like, I mean, we're hearing about some unprecedented opportunities out there. Houses selling for 500,000, 600,000, $700,000 lower than the peak. And we're going to talk about this in a subsequent podcast, but there's mortgage renewals coming up. There's so much pressure and so much opportunity out there that, I don't hear realtors talking about this enough in the marketplace. So I'm glad you brought this up, Ken.
When I bring this to the attention of agents, it's mind blowing to me that the vast majority don't see it. So I have to
I don't know if they don't see it, but as an industry of professionals, I think it's really hard to talk about, the truth of what's really going out there in the marketplace as a professional realtor. Like it's really hard to, the same realtor that has been shouting from the rooftop, buy this property, and now for them to go out there and shout, hey, people are losing $500,000, 600,000. Like it just paints a very negative picture. And I think realtors are paralyzed by the situation because they're scared of putting that message out there.
look. The last time we have experienced a market like this, 2017, 2008, were nothing like this. But the last time the market was most similar to this was 1989. Well, how many coaches, brokers, and agents that we have, of the 80,000 agents we have on the Toronto Real Estate Board right now, were in the business in 1989? A very small percentage.
Agreed.
So they're being taught, agents are coming into the business over the last 20 years, being taught how to sell real estate in an up market. And when the market is up, those techniques work. The problem is that we're not, the rules of the game have changed.
Yeah.
But the coaching of the agents hasn't changed. I've changed it. I've changed to say, look, I was in the market in 1989, and 89 to 94 were very prolific years for me because once I figured out how to do it, what to do and how to approach the market, and how to coach my sellers who are move up buyers on how to leverage this market in their favor, it becomes like, oh, wow, it opens up possibilities. So
Yeah.
I find that I coach the agents on how to do it. I've got to shift their mindset from the way they've been coached, which I call force-based selling techniques, to power-based selling techniques, where you can leverage the market in your favor, you being an agent, and in the favor of your clients, especially when it comes to people who are moving up.
Yeah.
So there's a
Ken,
whole coaching system around that.
and it should be, the whole issue here is seller confidence and buyer confidence, right? And it's like as a realtor, you got to instill confidence in the transaction, in your sellers and your buyers, so that the transaction happens, right? And you have to have a 20-year outlook, number one. You have to look at, building wealth over time. And the other thing is you have to look at the opportunity, right? So a lot of agents are fixated on the loss.
Right.
Hey, if the seller sells this property today and he bought it in 2021, 2022, 2023, this is the loss that we have to avoid at all costs. So what do sellers do? Well, we're going to wait until the market rebounds. And
Right.
agents play into this game
Right.
instead of showing the seller, well, listen, let's not worry about this. Let's worry about this on the opportunity of buying, especially when you're looking at the, people who want to upsize and move up. And,
Yeah.
there's tons of people out there who, for job opportunities, who have growing families, who need the bigger house. It's not that they even want the bigger house; they need the bigger house. And there's a huge opportunity here for them to be able to get it at the lowest delta between those two price points ever, to be
Yeah.
in a controlling seat, to not be in competition, to have plenty of time to make that decision, to be able to do a home inspection, to be able to renegotiate after the home inspection, to be completely in the controlling seat every step of the way, and control that transaction from A to Z and be in control of that process. And the more time they give themselves to go through this, the better opportunities they're going to find. Because, unfortunately, and I hate to be the one that says it on the podcast, but the market is trending downwards, and I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel where nobody's going to come in with a magic wand and really save us. We're going to be in this process where, the market figures itself out for the next couple of years, and the agents that win and survive and thrive in this market are the agents that learn to articulate this opportunity, have the tough conversations, and instill confidence in their buyers and sellers to transact in this market. And they have to have a long-term outlook.
I agree with everything you just said, Dave. Everything. I take it one step further, and I teach my agents to say something like this to their sellers. You should get down on your hands and knees and pray that the value of your home continues to drop.
Oh, I love that. Love it. Because it reverses the whole psychology of what they're thinking, right?
Exactly. And it takes them, it shocks them.
It shocks them.
Okay, what do you mean by that? Well, have you got 15 minutes? Yes, I do. Let's go.
Love it.
Now,
And then they're listening to you, right? Because like there's a lot of psychology in what you just did, right? Because people tend to be defensive
right.
when you approach a subject like this, right? So when you're trying to convince a seller that, hey, you have to lose money here, right? They're going to be very defensive. But when you start off with a statement like what you just said, now you have their curiosity. Now their defensive drops. Now they're listening to what you're saying. So I love that.
And then I take your strategy, which is perfectly correct. Once they get it, once they understand that the delta is the smallest it's ever been, and it's the best to actually move up, then it's time to start coaching them about getting out of a depreciating asset with a long closing. Excuse me.
Big deposit.
Big deposit, that's fine.
And the ability like that one, I know that.
Yeah. And the ability, a clause in that contract with the ability for that buyer to change the closing date to one that suits them better, given the new seller, that seller's house, 30 days notice or whatever. And I've done this many times, and I've held my clients' hands through that process where they're nervous until they actually see it coming to fruition and falling into place. And those are the people who will never buy real estate without me. Those are the people who give me referrals all the time, because I've taken them from a state of fear to a state of I'm just saving
empowerment.
Empowerment. Great word.
Yeah. I think that
I see a great need for this type of coaching right now from all the agents that I talk to right now that are doing very little and not understanding the market, because like you said, most of them weren't around in the tough days in the late 80s and early 90s. I remember that market. There's a whole generation of agents that grew up in the last 5 to 10 years in a multi-offer type of market. It was easy to sell. You put up a sign, you got multi offers. You're picking and choosing which one to take. They never had to put a clause in it to accelerate a closing date or extend a closing date, or a clause that says, I'm buying this, but it's conditional upon me selling my property. They never heard of those type of clauses because they never had to use it for
or VTBs.
or VTBs. They never had to be creative. And all of a sudden they're in a tough market, but the veterans that we are around here, we know we've seen this type of market before, and we'll see it again at some point in time, and markets change. And you have to be able to change with the markets and adapt as an agent, because if you can't adapt as an agent, you can't convince your clients. So this is invaluable stuff, Ken.
I have never seen a market in my 39 years in this business that wasn't exploitable, that didn't have golden opportunities. But as you just said, David, you have to be creative. You have to look past the obvious and start getting creative and exploit those opportunities. And I think what we've all just agreed upon is that the move up buyer is the premier opportunity right now.
Ken, this has been an amazing episode. Thoroughly enjoyed it. We're going to have you back next time to continue, and we're going to dive into AI and how AI can help generate leads and really take agents to the next level. But guys, we want to hear from you. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have questions, please email David Korman. Please email myself. We're going to drop Ken Wilder's information down below as well. Reach out to Ken. He's been in the business for a long time. I'm sure he'd love to hear from you. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll have you guys back again on the next episode of the David and David on Real Estate podcast. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, Ken.